Rose Joan Bluestein, known as Joan Blondell, was born on August 30, 1906, in New York. Her father, Levi Bluestein, also known as Ed Blondell, was a vaudeville comedian born in Poland to a Jewish family in 1866. He gained popularity touring with Blondell on Fennessy's stage adaptation of The Katzenjammer Kids. Joan's mother, Catherine Kane, was born in Brooklyn, New York, on April 13, 1884, to Irish-American parents. Joan had a younger sister named Gloria Blondell, who was married to film producer Albert R. Broccoli, and a brother named Ed Blondell Jr. Growing up in a vaudeville family, Joan's early years were filled with constant travel. Her cradle was a property trunk as her parents moved from place to place. At the age of 4 months, Joan made her first stage appearance, being carried on in a cradle as Peggy Astaire's daughter in the play The Greatest Love. Her family, known as the Bouncing Blondells, formed a vaudeville troupe. Joan had the opportunity to see the world during her childhood. She spent a year in Honolulu from 1914 to 1915 and 6 years in Australia. Eventually, her family settled in Dallas, Texas, when she was a teenager. In Dallas, Joan participated in the 1926 Miss Dallas pageant under the name Rosebud Blondell and went on to become a finalist in an early version of the Miss Universe pageant in May 1926. Later that year, she placed fourth in the Miss America 1926 pageant held in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Joan attended Santa Monica High School, where she acted in school plays and worked as an editor for the school yearbook. During this time, she continued to use the name Rosebud Blondell. In 1926 to 1927, she enrolled at North Texas State Teachers College, now the University of North Texas, in Denton, where her mother was a local stage actress. Joan Blondell's early experiences in vaudeville and beauty pageants set the stage for her successful career as an actress in both film and television. Around 1927, Joan Blondell returned to New York and took on various jobs such as a fashion model, circus hand, and store clerk. She joined a stock company to pursue her dream of becoming an actress and performed on Broadway. In 1930, she appeared alongside James Cagney in the play Penny Arcade, which had a short run of only 3 weeks. However, Al Jolson saw the play and purchased the rights for $20,000. He then sold the rights to Warner Brothers, under the condition that Blondell and Cagney would be cast in the film adaptation, titled Sinner's Holiday, 1930. As a result, Joan Blondell was signed under contract by Warner Brothers and relocated to Hollywood. The studio's boss, Jack L. Warner, wanted her to change her name to Inez Holmes, but Blondell refused. She began appearing in short subjects and was named one of the Wampas Baby stars in 1931, which recognized promising young actresses. Blondell had multiple collaborations with James Cagney in films like The Public Enemy, 1931, and Footlight Parade, 1933. She also formed a popular gold-digging duo with Glenda Farrell in 9 films. During the Great Depression, Blondell became one of the highest-paid individuals in the United States. Her powerful performance of Remember My Forgotten Man in the Busby Berkeley production of Gold Diggers of 1933, alongside Dick Powell and Ruby Keeler, became an anthem representing the frustrations of unemployed individuals and the government's failed economic policies. In 1937, Joan starred opposite Errol Flynn in The Perfect Specimen. By the end of the 1930s, she had appeared in nearly 50 films. In 1939, Blondell left Warner Brothers. In 1943, Blondell returned to Broadway as the star of Mike Todd's short-lived production of The Naked Genius, a comedy written by Gypsy Rose Lee. She was well received in her later films, despite being relegated to character and supporting roles after 1945, when she was billed below the title for the first time in 14 Years in Adventure, which starred Clark Gable and Greer Garson. She was also featured prominently in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, 1945, and Nightmare Alley, 1947. In 1948, She left the screen for 3 years and concentrated on theater, performing in summer stock and touring with Cole. After her stage career, Joan Blondell returned to Hollywood in 1950. She received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress in a Supporting Role for her performance in The Blue Veil, 1951. She continued to play supporting roles in films such as The Opposite Sex, 1956, Desk Set, 1957, and Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter? 1957, in Norman Jewison's The Cincinnati Kid, 1965, she portrayed Lady Fingers, a role that earned her a Golden Globe nomination and a National Board of Review win for Best Supporting Actress. Director John Cassavetes cast her as a cynical, aging playwright in Opening Night, 1977. Blondell appeared in several films during the late 1970s, including Grease, 1978, and the remake of The Champ, 1979, alongside Jon Voight and Rick Schroder. She also had roles in 2 films released after her death, The Glove, 1979, and The Woman Inside, 1981. On television, Blondell made guest appearances on various programs. She appeared as Aunt Wynn in 3 episodes of the CBS sitcom The Real McCoys in 1963. She also guest starred as Lucy Tudine in an episode of the syndicated anthology series Death Valley Days in 1963, and in the episode, What's in the Box, of The Twilight Zone in 1964. In the same year, she appeared in an episode of The Greatest Show on Earth alongside Jack Palance, Joe E. Brown, and Buster Keaton. Blondell was considered for the role of Lucille Ball's sidekick on the CBS comedy series The Lucy Show in 1965, but walked off the set after Ball criticized her performance in front of the audience and technicians. She continued to work in television and had guest appearances on shows like Family Affair, 1968, and Petticoat Junction, where she temporarily replaced Bea Benaderet for 1 episode. In 1968, Blondell co-starred in all 52 episodes of the ABC Western series Here Come the Brides, for which she received 2 consecutive Emmy nominations for Outstanding Continued Performance by an Actress in a Dramatic Series for her role as Lottie Hatfield. Joan Blondell was married 3 times throughout her life. Her first marriage was to cinematographer George Barnes on January 4, 1933. They had a son named Norman Scott Barnes, who later became a successful producer, director, and television executive known as Norman Powell. Joan and George divorced in 1936. On September 19, 1936, she married actor, director, and singer Dick Powell. They had a daughter named Ellen Powell, who pursued a career as a studio hairstylist. Dick Powell also adopted Joan's son from her previous marriage, and he was known as Norman Scott Powell. However, Joan and Dick Powell divorced on July 14, 1944. Joan had a strained relationship with Powell's subsequent wife, June Allison, although they later appeared together in the film The Opposite Sex, 1956. On July 5, 1947, Joan Blondell married producer Mike Todd. Their marriage was tumultuous and ended in divorce in 1950. She accused Todd of holding her outside a hotel window by her ankles. Todd was known for his extravagant spending habits, including heavy gambling, which led to a highly publicized bankruptcy during their marriage. It is often incorrectly rumored that Todd left Blondell for Elizabeth Taylor, but in reality, Joan had left Todd years before he met Taylor. Joan Blondell passed away from leukemia on Christmas Day, 1979, in Santa Monica, California. Her children and sister were by her side. She was 73 years old. Joan was cremated, and her ashes were interred in a columbarium at Forest Lawn Memorial Park Cemetery in Glendale, California.